Yes, I'm Batman.
I'm Batman. I'm Batman, Alfred.
I'm Batman.
I am Batman!
I'm Batman. I'm Batman.
Greetings, Bat Family, and welcome back to Holy BatCast, brought to you by Real Fans for Real Movies. Make sure you visit our website, holybatcast.com. It is your one-stop shop for all things Holy BatCast. But don't worry, you can find us all over the damn internet on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Just search for Holy BatCast and you will find us. And if you love the show, you want to support the show, you want to make it official, you can do that on Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/holybatcast. As always, huge thank you to our patrons. It means the world to us, and I've got to give a shout out to our latest patron. That is Mr. Jim Scroggs. Hi, Jim. Jim is someone who has been super supportive and already part of our family on Twitter for years now. And so when I saw this come through, I was like, oh, Jim, that means a lot to us. So thank you so much, Jim. Thanks for being so supportive for so long. And thank you for putting a ring on it and joining our Patreon. It does mean a lot, especially like right now. I'm shocked when we get new ones, and it's always a really nice and humbling surprise. So Jim, you're awesome, and everybody who is one of our patrons, you guys are awesome too. Thank you for doing that. We're part of the Real Fans Podcast Network, so if you're looking for other shows to enjoy in your spare time, you can check those out at rf4rm.com. As always, I'm your host, Andy DiGenova, and you can follow me on Twitter or on Instagram. It's just Andy DiGenova. Now, this episode, we are going to be discussing the Batman ISO Challenge that we took part in and helped host throughout the month of May. So everybody who follows us on social media probably saw it. Most of you, or many of you, also participated, which was super fun. But we thought we would put a little bow on it by discussing our choices and going through the list. Joining me for all of that is the mastermind behind the Batman ISO Challenge. So he would be Ra's al Ghul, and I would be his Ubu. It's Brendan Lowe. Hey, Brendan.
Hey, man, how you doing?
It's good. It's good. I'm in China.
You are. We're back in the same time zone.
We're back in the same time zone, which I should note is why we have no Jamie Drewley, because it is already late where he is, and he was not up for staying late. So, as I did when I was in China before, I'm going to do everything I can to keep the schedules working well enough that Jamie can be on as much as works. But the scheduling of podcasts, it is the bane of my existence. I'll tell you what, Brendan, I never had gray hair until I started podcasting. And
oh, really?
Now I have 12 gray hairs. So I wonder if this is the reason.
Okay. It just so happens that your podcasting days coincided with your marriage.
There's also that. So, 6 of one, half dozen the other. I don't know. I used to be so young, so full of hope. Now the world has beaten me down, and I'm just waiting for death.
The world is a massive pile of shit at the moment.
The world is a vampire.
But let's talk about happy things. Let's talk about Batman.
I like talking about Batman, and yeah, with everything happening in the world today, I hope people don't think it's like disrespectful for us to be doing this, because sometimes you just need to take a break from the insanity and the drama and the stress and everything that's happening, and you just need to take a break and talk about something that brings you joy, and for us, that's Batman. So, don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Not at all.
So yeah, let's do that. It is now June.
It is.
It is. So fun fact, we were talking about it before I hit record, is it is now June. I'm finally back in China. I left China on January 23rd.
That was before my birthday. My birthday feels like ages ago.
January 23rd of 2016. Weird. Yeah. That's just how it feels.
We were still excited about BVS coming out then.
Oh my God. Oh, simpler times.
Yeah, right.
Oy. But yes, no, it's anyway, what were we saying? I don't even remember what I was saying, but I just had to point out that that's how long it's freaking been. But it's now June, and that's why, because in May, you gave us a little something that allowed us to celebrate Batman while while most of the world was in quarantine. Some were working, some were not. I was working. I worked the whole time. I think you did too.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, being able to work from home, it's been really good.
Yeah. So, well, that's great. But a few days before May started, I think you were doing a Bond challenge in April?
Well, yeah, I'd been doing a Bond challenge, and at that stage, I was doing there was a James Bond challenge, there was a one for movies, there was one for songs, and all this kind of stuff, and I'm just like, how has there not been a Batman one? Or look, there may have been. I didn't see it, but for me not to see it, given the pages I follow and friends circles that I'm in, it's a little bit strange. So I was just like, oh, wouldn't it be great if there was a Batman one? And then I shit you not, and this is the truth. Whenever I have these brainwave ideas, I'm always in the shower. I don't know what it is.
You're just trying to get me to picture it. You cheeky monkey, you.
I do. Well, I mean, I'd physically send you a picture, but no. But no, I'm serious. Like, even the idea for the nightlight, like, I was in the shower and other things that I've done.
You sound like Jack Nicholson's Joker. I was in the bath one day when I realized why I was destined for greatness.
I know. It's true though. It's really weird. Like some people say, that their brainwaves always happen when they're on the toilet and everything. But for me, it's when I'm in the shower, and I don't know why that is. But anyway,
dude, same. Like in the shower or when I'm like stuck in traffic, because I think it's because you're not being assaulted with other things, so your brain can like take a break from external stimuli and like do things on its own.
Yeah. And so yeah, I had the idea of it's like, well, screw it. Like I have a podcast. You have a Batman podcast. Like obviously mine's not Batman exclusive, but it's very heavily influenced by Batman. So I mean,
it's half the name, Night.
Yeah,
it's a lot more Batman than it is light.
True. So I was just like, well, I wonder if Andy would be keen to sort of join forces and we can. Do this together because, I mean, look, my podcast is just something I do for a little bit of a hobby, and I'm not saying this to blow smoke up your ass or anything, but like you have a much bigger listenership than I do, and that's fine. But that's why I thought maybe joining forces, because it would be a way of getting it out to more people, so more people could enjoy doing it. Because I mean, I had a ton of fun doing the James Bond one and the music one I'd been doing, and there was all these different challenges. So it's like, well, bugger it. So I sat down. I literally got out of the shower and then started compiling a list of 31 things that you could do for the month of May, and ran it by you, and you were keen. And yeah, a couple of days later, it was the start of May, and we were off to the races. And now here we are with concluding it with the podcast.
Well, I mean, I should point out that when you came to me and you were like, hey, what if we did this? And I already put together a list. Here's my problem is I saw it like as I was waking up, and whatever I look at when I'm waking up, I don't have time to digest. So I'll either ignore it inadvertently, or I'll just go, yeah, sure, whatever. Like, and so I think that's what happened is I saw it and I was like, yeah, sure, that sounds fine. Because I wasn't even awake yet.
And also, I'd done the list, so you didn't have to do any work.
Right? You'd already made the list. And then as we went through the challenge, I was like, oh, I should have read this list longer, because there are a couple of these that we could have improved, which, I guess we'll talk about eventually. There were a few where I was like, really? Favorite novel? Come on. Favorite novel?
I mean, yeah, towards the end of it, I was sort of going like, oh, what can I, like, I've done all the big ones and I've done this, and it's just kind of like, what? I started thinking a bit outside the box and some random stuff, and it's like, well, we all talk about graphic novels, but there's heaps of Batman novels out there, and they don't ever really seem to get talked about that much. And oddly enough, to sort of not to jump to Jamie to jump towards the end or anything, but that was the one that I think I found the most interesting, because people were recommending books that I'd never heard of, and I currently have two of them on their way in the mail to me that I found on eBay.
Okay, well, there you go. I mean, there was some good that came of it. But I also don't remember agreeing to these episodes, FYI. I think you were just like, yeah, and then we're going to do episodes. And I was like, oh, okay.
Well, that was in my original pitch. It was like, well, and then at the end of it, we
Oh,
could
was
do
it?
like a crossover.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay. Again,
I did.
I take no responsibility for anything I say or do prior to 10 a.m. is my general
See,
rule.
this is because we were in different time zones at the time. Like, if
Yeah.
you'd been in China, you probably would have poo-pooed the whole idea, and this wouldn't have happened at all.
I don't know what the hell my brain does until it's awake by 10 a.m. But it's fine. It's all good because I love this episode because it requires no homework, which is our favorite thing.
Yeah, and look, honestly, again, not to blow smoke up my own ass, but like, people seem to really enjoy it.
Oh yeah, it was actually really fun. And do you know why it was so fun, Brendan? Aside from it just being an amazingly brilliant idea, thanks to you, but it was also very fun because it allowed us every day for a month to talk about something that we loved. Not that we hated, not that we had problems with, not that annoyed us, something we loved. And like, it was just refreshing.
And honestly, like, every couple of days, I just jump on Twitter and do a search for the Batman ISO Challenge hashtag. And from what I saw, again, there may have been, I hope there wasn't, but this is just based on what I saw scrolling. I never saw any arguments.
No.
There was people just kind of respected everyone's opinion, and that was great.
Yeah. I know. I feel like a couple of people tried to bait me into it, and I was like, no, man, like, it's all good. I think I gave one person shit for something, but it was someone like you, like, who I can give shit to, and it's not meant to be.
Yeah.
It could have been you. I can't remember, but like, it was actually that was part of the fun of it, was like seeing some of the more offbeat choices.
Yeah.
I think that was cool.
I think it might have been you had a run of Batman 89 stuff, and I might have done like Andy does, picks Batman 89. What a surprise.
Could have been. Well, and I know.
Could have been something like that.
There was one that was like, well, we'll get to it, but there was one where they're like, oh, I'm surprised you didn't pick Batman 89 for this. I'm like, well, every once in a while I'll throw you a curveball. But no, I think that was pretty fun. It was just seeing the difference in tastes and opinions and everything. I think that was cool.
Yeah, that was really, really interesting.
There were a couple people who were like, no, that's wrong, and I was like, my favorite's wrong? Okay. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
But what are you gonna do?
The
internet's gonna internet,
It will. The internet's gonna internet. I like it. I think that was the original version of Taylor Swift's song. It just didn't sound grammatically right. Like, it didn't roll off the tongue.
Yeah.
Like, haters gonna hate.
Internet's gonna internet, net.
Yeah, see? It doesn't work.
I bet Gaurav, if you're listening, Gaurav, who did our Wayne Manor mailbox, if you can make it work, I'll play it.
Could be a new segment where, like, the internet's just been a real pain in the ass this week, and we just talk about bullshit rumors or something.
Yep. That's true.
Speaking of which, did you hear that Affleck's in talks for HBO Max to do a series?
God, stop it.
Yeah. Oh well.
Well, let me just say this. I guess, why not? Let me say it real quick, because I thought about even tweeting it out. Is like, when I throw shade at rumors like that, it's not because I don't want it to happen. It's not because I don't love Ben Affleck as Batman. It's not because I wouldn't cheer if he did come back. Do you know why I get frustrated with that? Is because it is so transparently some desperate person or site using fandom's passion and hopes against us to try and shamelessly earn themselves traffic. That's why I get mad.
Yeah.
Because anyone can say anything and call it a rumor or call it exclusive, because there's no negative consequences to passing misinformation on Twitter, and there are just enough fans who hold out hope, who will share it, and I think it is gross and I hate it.
Well, you saw my tweet about it, didn't you?
Yes.
I was like, exclusive. I really, really want to have a three-way with Emma Roberts and Anna Kendrick, but just because I really, really want it to happen doesn't mean it's going to actually come true.
Yeah. So yeah, that's why I get frustrated. Like, it's these effing sites, these nobodies who so badly want to be a player that they're using our fandom against us and basically just telling people what they want to hear in hopes that enough people will share it. And the insane thing is it works. People still do it. And I'm like, guys, use your brains. That's why I get frustrated.
Yeah. I mean, look, we'd be the first one to jump on the bloody microphone at 4 o'clock in the morning, my time.
Yeah.
And podcast about it if it were true, or if it actually happened. Like, I'd be setting off bloody fireworks with excitement. But, I desperately want it to happen. But just because I really want it to happen doesn't mean I'm going to write an article saying that, with no actual evidence or founded sources or anything.
And from a disreputable source to begin with, that's why, I mean, and unfortunately, that's why I am so cynical about any scoop anymore, is because so many people realize that they can say whatever they want, call it a rumor, get the traffic for it. Turns out they just made it up, but it doesn't matter because it doesn't negatively affect you in any way. And so many people do that now I was like, yeah, sure, I'll believe it when I see it, when it's reported by the Hollywood Reporter or Deadline or Variety.
That's what I was just going to say. They're the three for me. It's Hollywood Reporter, Deadline, or Variety. Unless they're attached to it, I don't even click on it.
Right. So I'm sorry, that was a little tangent, but anyway, I guess it was worth mentioning because there's these clowns out there trying to get people's hopes up about Affleck's return, and that's all it is them manipulating fans to try and get traffic. Yeah,
it's sort of the downside of the good news about the Snyder Cut. But well,
exactly.
As you said, the internet's going to internet.
Internet's going to internet. All right, so let's talk about the Batman ISO challenge, brother.
Let's do it.
All right, so I guess we should say at the outset is we're going to do the first half of the list here on Holy BatCast, and then we're going to move over to the Nightlight 2.0, which is your show, of course, and we're going to do the second half of the list. So for people who are listening and we stop at number 16, and they're going to go, but the rest, well, we're manipulating you and forcing you to download the Nightlight. Of course, all the best categories are the first 16 anyway, so you could probably just skip the second half. You're fine.
True. I mean, yeah, like I said, I'm not in it for listeners or clicks. I just have my show because it's fun.
Yeah, but we're splitting it up, especially because, yes, this was totally your baby, so it's fair. But yeah, let's get it started. The Batman ISO Challenge for May. Number 1 was a nice, easy one. Favorite live-action Batman actor?
Now, I can't remember what some of your answers are for these, so
that's okay. Neither can I. I could do it off the top of my head and see if it matches with what I actually said, or I can pull up Instagram where it's all in one convenient place, which is probably what I am going to do.
I've got my Twitter.
Yeah, well, because Twitter for me, there's so much in between each ISO challenge that it would be harder to sort through. Whereas Instagram, it's actually pretty easy.
I went to Twitter and literally just hit save on every photo that I did for the challenge. So, yes, that's just in my gallery now, so I can just flick through.
Cool. All right. Well, I'm number 1. Who's your favorite live-action Batman actor?
Mine was Affleck, with sort of a caveat.
He's coming back, dude. He's coming baback.
I know, right? So yeah, Affleck with a caveat for Richard Citrone.
Oh, well, that's good.
Because as we kind of know, like, unless it's a close-up on Affleck's face, it was Richard.
Richard was doing the work, y'all.
Yeah, so obviously Affleck, yeah, but yeah, little shout-out to Richard there as well, because I think he deserves the credit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a great choice. And yeah, it's hard to argue. My issue with this question is always, I'm like, I've pretty much liked every live-action Batman except Kilmer and Clooney. So it's always tough because I'm like, they're all great. Like, Adam West is great. Michael Keaton is great. Bale is great. Affleck is great. I do legitimately love all the live action Batman that weren't in a Schumacher movie. So I just had to go with my sentimental favorite, which is Keaton, because it was, and we joked about it, but yeah, the reason Batman 89 pops up so much on this list is Batman 89 is what made me fall in love with Batman. Batman 89 is what made me fall in love with movies. So, yeah, like my favorite live action Batman is going to be the one who was my first Batman, and it's Michael Keaton.
And I mean, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I totally hear you, because I don't know how many times a year I get asked, who's your favorite James Bond? And it's exactly the same. Like,
even on this show,
I legitimately like all of them, like for their own reasons, you know.
Right.
And it's the same with, you know, there are aspects of Clooney's performance which is good. There are aspects of Kilmer's performance which are good. Like, you know, they're not at the top of the list, but they still deserve credit as well. And yeah, so I'm exactly the same as you. But for me, it comes down to Affleck's just being so comics accurate.
Oh, totally.
And I know I've said that before on this show like a million times. Like, it's the most comics accurate we've ever had. So that's sort of, you know, why he pipped the others to come to the top.
No, that makes sense. And yet for Keaton, one of the criticisms of the Burton films, and it is one that I agree with, even though I don't let it make me like the movies any less, is that the movies are less interested in Batman and they're more interested in the villains. I think that's totally fair. But I will say that when Keaton is on screen, he gives a great performance with less to work with because he's just a great actor. And I give him a lot of credit for that.
Very little dialogue.
Yeah, exactly.
Which was his call.
Yeah. There's something that I've considered about Keaton's performance is I consider it laser focused. And that's what I love about his Batman. It's so, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, like, man, with all of these, there's no wrong answer.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So you
all
say.
Right. Number 2, favorite live action Batman movie.
Do you want to go or do you want me to go?
You go. You're the guest.
Okay.
You go first.
I
always let you finish first.
Okay. You are a gentleman like that, aren't you?
I try.
For me, again, this probably won't be a surprise because I've said it a number of times on this show, but for me, it's Batman Begins. I still, to this day, again, similar to your favorite live action Batman, like I like all the Batman movies, probably aside from Batman and Robin, to one extent or another. But as you just said about the Burton films, like they do focus more on the villains than they do the lead title character of Batman. Whereas for me, Batman Begins is still the one movie that truly focuses on Batman and Bruce Wayne equally. It's his movie from start to finish. And the same I don't think can be said for the other two movies in the Nolan trilogy. Whereas Batman Begins, it is 100% wholly and solely a Batman movie, and to me, for that reason, it's still my favorite Batman movie. Like, I think The Dark Knight is a better film, but when you're talking just in terms of a Batman movie, for me it's Batman Begins, and it's a lot of daylight between that and the next one.
Nice. Great choice. It's a tempting choice. I've always said that Batman Begins, I think, is the best Batman movie, and Batman 89 is my favorite Batman movie. So I picked Batman 89 because it says favorite. And for the same reason not the exact same reason I picked Michael Keaton, but for the reason of what Batman 89 meant to me when I was 10 years old in the summer of 1989. It was a movie that changed my world. It was a movie that I spent all of my time thinking about that movie, and that didn't happen again, with a Batman movie. I mean, even though The Dark Knight was a phenomenon the way Batman 89 was, it still didn't monopolize my world the way Batman 89 did, because I was older. I was an adult.
Right.
So
you weren't 10 years old.
Yeah, I wasn't 10 years old. So I just the amount of affection I have for that summer and the magic of that movie, I can't discount that, even though, yes, I think that objectively, I think Batman Begins is a better movie, but Batman 89 is still my favorite.
Yeah, and that's fair enough. I mean, I expected a lot of Batman 89s to show up for, day 2 of the challenge, and it certainly did. I was expecting a lot of Batman 89s and Dark Knights, and It's pretty much exactly what happened.
Of course, yeah. I mean, totally makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, number 3, favorite live action Batmobile.
This one I know we're in agreement with, and that's the Anton Furst, Tim Burton Batmobile from Batman and Batman Returns.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, that's a shock to nobody, especially for me. And this is why, like, yeah, first 3, and then spoilers, first 4 are all Batman 89 for me. So that's why people are like, okay, well, you can just pick Batman 89 for every week, or every day. I could, but yeah, I mean, this was the perfect reinvention of the Batmobile, and I still think hasn't been topped in live action.
See, for me, I think you and I might have had this conversation privately, actually, at one point, or it might have been even on the show. I can't remember, but to me, that Anton Furst Batmobile has kind of transcended those two movies, where, like, you know, you look at the Tumbler, and it's like that's very much Nolan's Batmobile. You look at the Forever one; it's very much tied to that movie. Whereas, I don't know, I think. And particularly like with Hot Wheels and things like that, like when they produce a Batmobile, it's still this car. You know, to me, it's not so much the Batmobile from the first 2 movies. It's just the Batmobile. You know.
Yeah. No, that's a great point.
It doesn't hurt that I've also driven in 2 of them, like 2 different versions of the '89 car. I've been fortunate enough to be taken for a joyride in 2 of them, so that obviously helps on the list as well. But yeah, to me, it surpasses just being the Batmobile from those 2 movies, and it just is the Batmobile. Period.
Yeah, that's a great point. I agree with you, because you're right. Like when it comes to the other live action Batmobiles, they're very much set in context with, you know, if it's Batman 66 with that show, or if it's, you know, Batman Forever or Batman and Robin or the Tumbler or even the BVS Mobile. All of those are pretty much just, they're firmly placed within that movie or TV show. Whereas this Batmobile, you're right, transcended it, and because it's, anytime they do a Batmobile cameo in the comics, they draw this in the background. You know, it's popped up in video games. Like, it's popped up in commercials. Like, people just now know this as the Batmobile. And I just think designers have had a really tough time topping it since. You know, you can certainly quibble about its functionality, but I also think that, you know, that's fine. The Tumbler is very functional, but as far as, like, design, this thing is just a thing of beauty, and I love it.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. It's going to take a lot to top it, and so far it hasn't. And from what we've seen, what's coming in the future next year, it still hasn't been, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
As soon as they give me the keys to the kingdom, you're gonna get a live action Super Friends Batmobile, and then that'll be it. Until then, it's Anton Furst.
Yeah. Yep. Can't disagree.
Complete with the front of the hood popping out like a battering ram, just like the toy did.
Yep. I never had that toy. I was that was just before my time.
I never had it either, because
Batman.
Yeah, I never had it either, because I think we've talked about it as like when I was a kid, you know, we were poor, so I couldn't get every toy I wanted, so I sort of had to commit to franchises, and Super Friends was one that I wasn't able to commit to. So I just remember like going over to like my parents' friend's house, and their son had all the Super Friends toys, and I was in heaven, and they had the Batmobile, and man, popping out that little battering ram, oh man, it was so cool.
Yeah, my first was the Toy Biz '89 Batmobile that had the open hood, like the open
I didn't even have
canopy.
that one.
Oh, really? Yeah, no, that was my first.
I didn't even have that one. All right. Next one, number 4, the favorite live-action Joker.
Had to go with the Aussie. Had to go with Heath Ledger. It's, again, not to take away from any of the other performances. You know, Cesar Romero, Jack Nicholson, you know, even Jared Leto, because it's even come out this week, like, David Ayer said, like, his whole performance was cut from the movie, which we kind of already knew.
Yeah.
But, again, there's aspects of all of them that I like, but in terms of an actor disappearing into the role, I mean, Christ, everyone knows how good Ledger is in that movie. I won't bore everyone with all the superlatives, but to me, he's my favorite live action Joker, and yet to be beaten. But in saying that, I know you and I are both in agreement as well. I still don't think we've seen the definitive Joker, live action on the big screen. It still hasn't happened yet, and I'm hoping that in the future we will get to see it. We've still, as great as they've all been, there still hasn't been that comic book accurate, to a T Joker, to the, I guess maybe Cesar Romero is the closest we've had, but even then it's with that 66 spin, and Nicholson looked the part, but again it still hasn't been that quintessential Joker. But for me, from what we've had, the favorite is Heath Ledger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like that was obviously the most common selection, and I totally get it, But we just had this conversation recently when we did the live action DC villains episode. I lean ever so just a hair slightly towards Nicholson because of my affection for the movie, but also just because it's just a little more comic booky, and my tastes run a little more comic booky. I think Ledger was brilliant. His Joker is brilliant, and I love watching him in that movie. He's amazing. But I also think so is Nicholson. They both just grab you whenever they're on screen. And so, I just give Nicholson a razor's edge because it's just a little more, it's got its feet more firmly planted in comics, whereas Ledger's was a little more of that real world.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
All right.
Which is going to come into play for the next one for me, actually.
Oh, okay. Well, great. The next one is favorite live action Catwoman.
And for pretty much the same reason you gave the edge to Nicholson over Ledger, I had to give the edge to Anne Hathaway over Michelle Pfeiffer. And as silly as this sounds, because it is, just a fun challenge that we made up and everything, I seriously had to debate the answer to this one because...
Did you lose sleep?
I can't say I lost sleep over it, but... because I was doing these early in the morning when I woke up every morning, so before I had to start work, and back then I was starting work at 8 o'clock, I had to give it to Hathaway pretty much for the same reason you had to give it to Nicholson, in that Hathaway is kind of the more comic book accurate version of the character to a point. I know that Nolan took a lot of liberties and everything, but she sort of was the anti-hero. I think I've always said this. I think the best costume for Catwoman will always be Michelle Pfeiffer. Mm-hmm. Up until now, that's never been beaten. And again, similar to the Anton First Batmobile, that look of Catwoman has kind of transcended just that movie to that is Catwoman. I mean, movie world here in Australia, they still use that costume. Mm-hmm. They tried I think very, very briefly they had the oh god, why am I having a mental blank? The Catwoman movie costume, they had that for a little while.
Oh, really? Like the Halle Berry?
Yeah, Halle Berry. Thank you. I don't know why I was blanking on that. But I don't think it lasted that long.
That's interesting. Yeah.
I just saw it. I think it was like one of the morning shows here was broadcasting live from Movie World one day, and it was literally around the time that movie came out, and they had that version of Catwoman there. But look, I visited the park maybe 4 months after that, and I never saw it. It was back to the Michelle Pfeiffer. Yeah. And they. I mean,
what's Catwoman wearing in the current comics? She's essentially wearing a version of the Pfeiffer suit.
Yeah, I mean, and they kind of sort of toyed with the generic sort of like the Arkham Games version of Catwoman as well, with the goggles and stuff. But again, that didn't seem to last all that long either. And it's Michelle Pfeiffer, like that version of the character, the aesthetic has transcended, and that's just Catwoman now. Mm. But in terms of characterization in a movie, I mean, I think we've talked about it, like Selena Kyle just doing the simple oops. When she picks the
amazing.
That to me is Catwoman, and I mean, hell, the costume. It's to me, it's the 2012 version of the '66 costume. That's to me what it looks like, and Anne Hathaway was great in that role, and I would have loved to have seen more of her than what we got in that movie. She was fantastic. So she just as she said, like a razor's edge, pipped Michelle Pfeiffer for me. But yeah, I went with Hathaway in the end.
Yeah, I completely get it, and it is. I mean, I didn't have to debate too long, but I chose Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yeah,
but just like me choosing Jack Nicholson doesn't mean I don't think Heath Ledger was brilliant as the Joker. Just because I chose Michelle Pfeiffer here doesn't mean I don't think Anne Hathaway was brilliant as Catwoman in The Dark Knight Rises, because she is. She's so good in that movie. But I just chose Pfeiffer. Yeah, partly because of just my affection for that film, but also, yeah, the look is iconic, and in a movie, I think her performance is just brilliant in that movie. Like, she is so good as Selena Kyle. She is the transformation scene is just a tour de force of performance by her. She leaves it all out there, and I love how she goes for it. And then the way she transforms everything about her, the way she moves, the way she talks once she's in the Catwoman outfit, she was brilliant. And to think that she was a somewhat last-minute replacement in that role. And,
yeah, I was about to say that.
Yeah. And in a movie with Michael Keaton, Christopher Walken, Danny DeVito, she just strolled away with it like it was a stolen diamond. She's just so brilliant in that film. And I completely understand the folks who were like, yeah, but the backstory isn't Catwoman from the comics. Totally get that. And I'm not arguing that. I just think that the performance is so strong. She just left such a lasting mark on the character that I chose her, again, with a razor's edge over Hathaway. She's so amazing.
Makes total sense.
And you're right. Like,
they're both fantastic.
It's one of those things that, yeah, you then see that look for Catwoman pop up outside of that movie. And people go, oh, yeah, that's Catwoman.
Almost 30 years later.
Which is so funny, because I remember before the movie came out, I remember people being like, oh, it's weird that, like, it's all stitched up and stuff. Like, I remember that there was a little bit of, like, because they were expecting Julie Newmar, right? Mm-hmm. And so I remember when we first saw her in the trailers, I just remember people saying, oh, the Catwoman suit looks weird because of all the stitches. But I think, it was a brilliant choice just thematically of how this character is now being held together by stitches, like her psyche is being held together. And to watch it unravel through the movie, I think was brilliant on Tim Burton's part. But I also think it just gave the look such a distinct personality that then, yeah, people now just accept it as Catwoman.
And see, it would have been interesting too if Annette Bening had have stayed in the role, because I'm sure I've seen like artwork for what her costume was potentially going to look like, and it was not the Michelle Pfeiffer costume. It was a little bit more BDSM
interesting
style. Yeah, I'm sure that
I'd have to look for that. I don't think I've ever seen that.
Yeah, like it was similar, but it wasn't the same costume design. Like, it was a little more, that could have pushed parents groups even more if they'd have gone with the original design. I mean, it could be bullshit, but I've seen it pop up in a number of places, the original Annette Bening, just at least costume sketches for what they were going to go for.
Interesting.
And, yeah. Yeah. It wasn't what we got.
Huh. Well, great.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, excellent. Next one up is your favorite live action, James Gordon. And I got to say, I was very disappointed that there was not a lot of love for Neil Hamilton here.
I was about to say, I think this is the one where it was pretty much universally.
I think I only saw this if I'm there. You know what? I did see a couple people choose J.K. Simmons.
Oh, okay.
I did see one or two of those, and that's impressive considering he had 2 scenes.
Yeah.
But I want to say I saw a little bit of that, but otherwise, yeah, this one was pretty much a landslide.
It was Gary Oldman across
yeah.
the board. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
how can it not be?
I agree.
I mean, aesthetically, the performance, everything about it. I mean, Gary Oldman is Gordon until further notice.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. I've always said that he's the secret weapon of the Dark Knight trilogy. You know, so understated, but just perfection.
Agreed.
Like, and
100%.
he every scene he's amazing, and it was a little bit of an off kilter casting choice, but my God, does he nail it in every possible way? He's so good as Gordon. He's perfect.
Yeah. I mean, even you could almost argue the third movie is almost a Gordon movie. Like, he's got more screen time than Batman in that movie.
Yeah, I could see that. That's true. And that's something I will always be thankful for Nolan for is really committing the time and giving the depth of the relationship between Batman and Gordon, because that's something that was so missed in the Burton Schumacher films. And when I saw Batman Begins, and I was like, oh my God, they are really giving time to this relationship, and it's beautifully done. Oh man, that's one of my favorite things about that trilogy.
Honestly, the only thing that I think could have improved the links between Batman Begins and The Dark Knight is had they introduced Harvey Dent in The Dark Knight. Like, if he were the district attorney that Rachel was working for even then.
In Batman Begins, yeah.
In Batman Begins, yeah. Like, that's the only, and it's only a small criticism, but, you know, just to cement the relationship between those three men, yeah, I think that was a little bit of a misstep. But
I always
said that,
when I saw Batman Begins in the theater and the district attorney gets killed, I immediately was like, that means there's an opening, and you know who's going to run. Like, I saw,
I guess.
I was so happy about it because, yeah, you're right. Like, at the beginning when you're like, oh, this guy's the DA, why the hell is this guy the DA? And that's because he dies halfway through or maybe 2/3 through the movie. He dies, and I went, oh, now they need a new DA. Great, that's perfect for the sequel. And sure enough.
Yeah. I guess, yeah, but I always thought it would have been cool had he been involved in that first one. But yeah, I mean, the Gordon in those three movies is just absolutely brilliant, and I think the thing that made the character suffer a little bit in those first four films is I think that's where they were still in the mindset of the '60s show. You know, but in saying that too, Gordon had a lot more screen time in the '60s show than he did those first four movies.
Yeah. I just feel like, Tim Burton was so focused, and then subsequently Schumacher, like, they were just so focused on, like, the colorful characters that the normal humans just got the shaft, and that meant Gordon.
Yeah. No, you're right. But no, it's across the board. It's Gary Oldman.
Yeah, Gary Oldman, God, such an amazing Jim Gordon. I love it. You know what? I also saw a little bit of love for Gotham for Ben McKenzie.
Okay.
I saw a little bit of
must
that
have missed
too.
that.
Yeah, I saw a little bit of that. So yeah, again, stuff like that. Like, I wasn't like, when I saw that, I wasn't like, how dare you? I was like, oh, cool. Like, that's neat that like that worked so well for you that it's your favorite.
Yeah.
All right, so along those same lines, speaking of supporting players without colorful costumes, your favorite live-action Alfred?
Now, this one I purposely went left of center just because I knew, to me, I thought it was always going to be a two-horse race between Michael Gough and Michael Caine.
Yeah.
And I went with Jack Bennon.
Oh, that's right. That's
Pennyworth.
I mean, he's easily the dreamiest Alfred.
Well, he is. But I mean, again, it's no secret to people who listen to Holy BatCast. I really liked that show. And even you were surprised with how good. I mean, I don't know
I did
how
enjoy it.
far you got into it, but it was a really good show. And I've always liked the idea that Alfred had that past in the military, the Secret Service, that sort of stuff, and it never really gets explored that at all. And the fact that there was this show that was going to do it, admittedly, took a bit of a turn that I didn't expect, but I loved his performance, and I can see that, that hard ass Alfred who does take an orphan under his wing and raises him and helps him on his mission. And yeah, that show was really, really good, and I can't wait to see a second season of it. I believe it's been greenlit. But yeah, that was again, nothing against the other guys like Michael Goff, Michael Caine, even what's his name who played Alfred in Gotham.
Sean Pertwee?
I'm blank. Sean Pertwee, yeah. Like I tapped out of Gotham. I think it was towards season 3, maybe the start of season 4. But my favorite part of that show was anytime Alfred and Bruce were on the screen. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, that scene where he gives Bruce his father's watch and takes him to Tommy Elliott's house to beat the shit out of him. And, Alfred is the one who says, like, I let him do that. So, you're not going to say anything because that was me. And that's one of my favorite Alfred scenes ever. Like, he was really, really good in that show. But I just had to give it to Bannon because, again, I knew everyone was going to pick one of the other two.
Right.
And yeah, I genuinely love his performance in that show. So I think I might have been the only one who picked him. But it was one of those ones where I just
because I think you're the only one who watched the show.
all the way through, yeah. But I just for the sake of sort of going a little bit left of center, and I'm not lying when I say he's one of my favorites. So that's why I went with him.
No, I really loved him in the show. I didn't continue because it was one of those things where I didn't have epics, and like I didn't care enough to keep finding the show. So it's, yes, exactly. Like I wasn't that committed. So it's one of those where it's like, yeah, if it pops up on DC Universe, fingers crossed, or HBO Max now, wherever it's going to end up, I will happily finish it. But yeah, at the time it was very good. It just wasn't like so amazing that I had to go out of my way to get it.
Actually, just to give it a quick shout out before you give yours while I think of it, the new streaming service over here in Australia called Binge, mm-hmm. Which is kind of like a very, very, very watered down HBO Max that's launched, because they launched at the same time. In the DC section of Binge, Pennyworth is on there. So for Aussies who do want to check it out, who listen to the show, it is on Binge the whole season. So jump on there and check it out. Yeah.
Well, then along those lines, I should point out, a lot of folks were very excited that Beware the Batman was on HBO Max. So for those people who missed that show, which it would make sense since half of it aired at like 2:30 a.m., that's on HBO Max. So this one, I mean, yes, it was a 2-horse race for me, and I had a really hard time choosing between Michael Goff and Michael Caine. And again, it was really tough, but I did go with Michael Caine. Which shocked some people because it wasn't Batman 89. Michael Goff, much like Michael Keaton, gives such a wonderful performance in those films, especially with a limited amount of screen time. He doesn't get a lot of screen time or a lot of dialogue, but man, every line of dialogue he gets, he delivers. And you just want to hug Michael Goff. He's just so warm and wonderful.
He is.
But I chose Michael Caine because he is also warm and wonderful, but much like with Gordon, I love how much time the Dark Knight trilogy spends on developing his and Bruce's relationship. And I love how deep they're allowed to go into that relationship. So I gave Michael Caine the edge just because of we get so much more with Alfred. We get to know him so much more, and he is just so much more integral to those films. So I chose depth in that in that case, and I went with Michael Caine.
I've always thought with those two, aesthetically, Michael Goff looks much more like comic book Alfred, but character-wise, Caine is comic book Alfred, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I've always viewed those two.
Yeah, I agree. So I love them both. I chose Michael Caine because he's just, there's just so much more of Alfred to get to know in those films, and he's so good, and he, Alfred's always good with a witty one-liner, but Michael Caine gets quite a few. It's pretty awesome.
He does, yeah.
What's the point of doing all those push-ups if you can't lift a bloody log?
A bloody log. He's great.
All right, so on to more of Batman's supporting family. Number 8 is favorite live action Dick Grayson.
Bit of a a bit of a pattern here. I picked another Australian.
Oh,
Yeah, Brenton Thwaites, man, all the
you,
way.
you and your love for your Aussies.
I mean, but you can't blame me though with this one. It's not the fact that he's Australian that I picked him, but he's just so damn good. And he looked fantastic in the Robin costume. I remember we did pretty much a whole episode on the reveal of that photo back in the day before Titans hit. And I mean, he's the first live action, spoiler alert if you haven't seen the end of season 2 of Titans, but anyone who listens to this would have. He's the first time we get to see a live action Nightwing as well.
Yeah. Well, whether or not you've seen the show or listened to the show, like that picture made the rounds. So you saw it even if you didn't watch the show.
I think he's just fantastic. To me, he's Dick Grayson.
Yeah.
He's so good. Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. I chose him for all the same reasons. I love me some Burt Ward. I love Burt Ward, but I went with Brenton Thwaites because for years I've been asking for a live action Robin that we can take seriously, or a live action Dick Grayson we can take seriously. And Titans finally gave us that and started telling really compelling, really interesting Dick Grayson stories while using him as Robin. And then eventually we got to Nightwing, like his relationship with Bruce, his desire to try and save everyone, and sometimes the unforeseen circumstances that come with that. I love Dick Grayson as a character, and I think that Brenton Thwaites' version of Robin, his performance is great. He looks great in the suit. He looks great as Dick Grayson. They're telling great Dick Grayson stories on Titans, and it's what I'd been waiting for so long. And I didn't see it coming as an original series on DC Universe, but I'm so glad it came because, yeah, he's so good.
Yeah. My only criticism, and it's a nitpick, is that we haven't seen him do his laundry.
I mean, valid point. Maybe they're saving that for season 3.
Yeah, hopefully. Because, I mean, how else do you know that he can handle himself?
That's the only way to show that a young adult can kick some ass is how he does his laundry.
His ninja laundry. But yeah.
That's the most important thing.
Yeah. And I mean, look, if there's talk of a potential spin-off from Titans, please let it be a Nightwing series. My God.
Yeah.
Yeah. I almost think I'd want that more than Affleck's return, if I'm being completely honest.
Wow. I mean, or like, how cool would it be to do like a Nightwing made for streaming movie?
Oh.
Using him, like spin, like it's a special Titans movie, but Nightwing.
I love it when you talk dirty to me.
Yeah, he's amazing. He's so good. So, all right, I love it. Number 9, favorite live action Batman costume.
To me, I didn't even have to think twice about this one. It's the Affleck costume from BVS specifically. Mm-hmm. We've said it before. I think when we did the ranking of the live action Batman costumes, I think it was everyone's pick. I think it won with a landslide. It is the costume from the comics, ripped from the comics and thrown up on the silver screen, and it is amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah. I chose the same for the same reasons, and yeah, if you went back and listened to that episode when we ranked the bat suits, I chose that as my number 1 too for the same reasons. Yeah, it's straight off the page. He looks amazing. And yeah, it's the best live action bat suit yet. But much like Joker, I still think there's room for improvement. I think, there's opportunity.
Improvement being blue and gray.
Well, that wouldn't hurt, but like that's not the only. I don't like the fat bat. Is my biggest thing. The fat bat symbol. I'm not a fan of that. But otherwise, yeah, Zack Snyder did an amazing thing with oh God, is it Michael Wilkinson as the costume designer?
That sounds right.
Okay, yeah. I'm doing it from memory. But like, yeah, for them really translating a batsuit that we had never seen in live action before, that came straight off the page and still looks functional but looks amazing. Yeah, this batsuit, best one yet.
Yeah, and not wanting to open a can of worms, but in my honest opinion, we've taken 10 steps forward and then 20 steps back when it comes to a live action Batsuit. But I'll leave that powder dry for the time being. I
Yeah,
think.
we'll just leave that. This is a positive
Yeah.
about the things that we like, the things that we
Yeah.
like. So yeah, I think Affleck's Batsuit is the best we have seen so far, and I love it. I'm glad we're going to get to see it again.
More of it. Yeah, definitely.
Very good. All right, what is next? Number 10, favorite live action Bat vehicle that is not a Batmobile. This is a fun. This was a fun one, Brendan. I'll give you that. Like this one is a fun choice because like it opens up the playing field a bit.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, whenever you say favorite Bat vehicle, I mean, it's always the Batmobile. Come on,
Yeah.
like, you know.
Of course.
But yeah, I wanted to sort of, you know, give credit to some of these other vehicles that people don't always go to straight away. And for me, the answer to this one was the Batpod.
Okay.
I'll be honest. I did consider the Batboat from Batman Forever, just because as a kid with the 60s show, I always liked the Batboat.
Mm-hmm.
And I did kind of, I liked the look of the Batboat in Batman Forever. I think the fin and the sort of the, what would you call it, like the skeletal look to it and stuff, I actually think it suited the Batboat better than it did the Batmobile from that movie.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't do anything. Like, it was literally in it for one scene and got destroyed. So, you know, but I mean, the Batpod is amazing. You know, the maneuverability of it, the scene where it, you know, people always point to that scene in The Dark Knight where it sort of drives up the wall and turns around. And
I love that.
I
part.
love when you
I love that.
I love
part.
when you see it in Rises as well, how it does it's like how sort of the front wheels, like the wheels rotate as well, so it can go sideways.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you know, it's such an awesome vehicle, and you know, it didn't make me miss the Batmobile in Dark Knight Rises. I mean, yeah, there were still tumblers in that movie, but there was an entire Batman movie where Batman did not have a Batmobile, and I didn't miss it, and that was purely because of how awesome the Batpod is.
Nice. We did kind of have a flying tumbler in that one.
Yeah,
You know,
I never liked the
kinda.
Bat.
It's
Perfectly honest,
well,
I never really
I
liked
didn't.
it.
I didn't like it because it just looked like a flying tumbler. You know, I wish they had done more with the design, but
And the name as well, to be honest. Felt a bit lazy, but no, I like the Batpod.
All right, no, good choice. The Batpod is fun because I remember when they revealed the look of that. I want to say it was on Good Morning America, and it was like, oh God, like Meredith Vieira or what's the other one's name? Katie Couric. One of them. One of those, you know, one of those non-offensive morning news ladies was like crawling onto it and was like, oh, this is from the new Batman movie. It's called the Batpod. And I just remember looking at it, much like I did with the Tumblr, going, huh, that's weird looking. Like, I didn't dislike it. It's just not what I would expect. Like, I just kind of went, huh. And then once you see the movie and once you see what it does and its capabilities, you go, wow, that's actually really awesome. So it was like a nice surprise.
It does look weird if someone's not on it.
Yeah. And I've got to give credit because I've been on the Batpod at Warner Brothers. So, hey, you may have taken joyrides in Batmobiles, but I've been on the Batpod.
That's pretty cool.
Suck it. Mostly I was just excited to be sitting where Meredith Vieira did. Oh, God.
Hey, I've been on the Redbird, so...
You can have it. All right. So, I'm sorry, I'm back to Batman 89. I chose the Batwing.
Yeah,
I love
thought
it.
you would.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. It was one of those things where, like, you know, Batman is famous for his gadgets, he's famous for his vehicles. Like you said, you look at Batman 80, or not Batman 89, you look at Batman 66. Yeah, he had the Batcopter, he had the Batmobile, he had the Batcycle, he had the Batboat. You know, he had all the Bat vehicles, and it's become part of who Batman is, and that's part of the fun of the movies. So when you do the first big budget Batman movie in 1989, you go, well, we're of course doing the Batmobile, and we nailed it. We got to give him something else. We got to do the Batplane. So how do we do the Batplane? And just like they did with the Batmobile, they reimagined the Batplane as the Batwing, and they somehow not only nailed it, but improved it and elevated it. Because like the Batmobile, the design for the Batwing has transcended the movie, and everybody sees it. You go, yeah, of course, that's the Batwing. And they just know what it is.
Yeah.
And the idea of making the Batwing into the shape of the bat symbol, but only when viewed from above, was a stroke of brilliance.
Brilliant. Yeah.
And it shouldn't...
It wasn't like that in the comics beforehand, was it?
No, that was
so.
for the movie. And it's so brilliant that, it makes you go, why didn't anyone think of that before?
Mm-hmm.
And it could have somehow been hokey, but my God, it works.
Did you have the toy?
This one I had the toy. Because don't you remember?
Because that was the one that's the one you got really cheap.
I got it for $9. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, of course. Yep.
Got it for $9. Like, so yes, like I didn't have the Batmobile from Batman 89, but I had the Batwing. And yes, I ran around the house flying that Batwing. And I think there was even a point where I tied it to my ceiling with fishing wire, so it looked like it was flying over my bed.
That's awesome. Because
of course I did. So yes, I love the Batwing. It's so good. And it's just, again, the overall design is already amazing, and then you add in the layer of just making it the bat symbol, and phew, perfection.
Yeah, can't disagree.
Awesome. All right, moving on. Number 11, favorite Batman voice actor.
This is one where I thought it could be, a landslide. But there was a hell of a lot of variance when it came to this one, which was really cool. I mean, look, I went with Conroy. I mean, yes, he's the obvious answer, but personally for me, he is my favorite. Like I've got others who I also really like Bruce Greenwood, but Kevin Conroy is the voice of Batman, always will be, in my opinion. So I had to go with him, but it was great to see the wide selection that people went with for this one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of those where it's like, I chose Conroy as well for obvious reasons. Like he's Batman's voice. He's and he has been for now going on 30 years.
Yeah.
And not just in Batman the Animated Series, in video games and in animated films. And that voice is just now permanently tied to Batman. And I had to choose him for that reason. And not to mention, he's just an amazing Batman and Bruce Wayne voice. Like it's not just because of how much he's done it. He just is so good at it. And there's a reason he's done it for almost 30 years is he's just a perfect Batman voice. So I chose him for that reason. But it is one of those...
And crossed over to play him live action, too.
There you go. But it's one of those that I almost feel bad for everyone else who has voiced Batman, because so many great actors have given great voice to Batman over the years. But if you're going to choose one, you're going to choose Conroy. And so I think even in my post, I was like, well, of course I choose Kevin Conroy. He's amazing. It's Batman's voice. But I love Diedrich Bader in Brave and the Bold. And...
I did see him get quite a bit of love, actually.
He got some love, yeah. And I love Rino Romano in The Batman. And I love Bruce Greenwood in Young Justice and Under the Red Hood. And I love Jason O'Mara in the animated films. Like, so there have been a lot of great Batman voices that I think deserve a lot of credit as well. Troy Baker. Troy Baker is a great Batman and Joker. Like, it's a shame that they have to live kind of under the shadow of Conroy because, God, there's so many great actors who've done such great work voicing Batman over the years.
I actually see, for this one, I can't remember if he liked it or retweeted it or replied to it, but someone who chose Diedrich Bader tagged him in it, and he responded.
Yeah. He's always said it's the best job he's ever had.
Yeah.
And I love that. Like,
and that
number one, I love that dude. He's just the coolest dude. And I also just love how much he loves Batman, how proud he is to have been Batman. Like, and yeah, he's still doing it for Harley Quinn. So no, I love Diedrich Bader.
Yeah, he is great.
So good. And yeah, he's been super like kind on Twitter with the show and everything. He's just a nice guy.
No, I got a lot of time for him. He's awesome.
Yeah. But anyway, we still chose Conroy because he's Kevin freaking Conroy. Yeah.
Kevin Conroy.
He's Kevin freaking Conroy. What are you going to do? All right. Speaking of, number 12, favorite Batman cartoon series.
I mean, it's obviously Batman the Animated Series. I'll be honest, I wasn't almost tempted to put the Batman just because
I
I
thought you
think that
might
show
be.
is. I thought that show is severely underrated. Everybody knows that.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about it, and I do. It is my second favorite after Batman the Animated Series. But I mean, who am I kidding? It's Batman the Animated Series. I mean, you know, I was wiped out on pain medication yesterday, and I literally got into bed, just threw on a random disc of Batman the Animated Series and let it play. I mean, I slept through most of it, but
But it's still it's like a warm blanket. It's comforting.
it is it's comfort food, and that show, it's so bizarre, and I don't know if I've said this on this show or not before, but it's so scary to think that, you know, in the 90s when I used to watch cartoon shows of a morning and stuff, and it was, you know, Scooby-Doo from the 70s and the Flintstones and stuff like that, and they felt like this, like they felt like old cartoons. Whereas now, when I watch Batman the Animated Series, more time has passed
Mm-hmm.
from you know, when that show debuted to when I was watching what I used to think of old cartoons back in the day when I was a kid, and it doesn't feel old. It still
Yeah.
feels so modern and relevant, and I love all the live action Batman movies. I truly do, and you know, the live action movies are why I'm a Batman fan. But Batman the Animated Series is the best version of that character, period.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking, you know, comics, other cartoons, movies, whatever. Batman the Animated Series is hands down the best version of the character, his world, his villains. Yeah, it's perfect in every
Yeah.
single way, except for maybe Baby Doll and stuff like that, stuff like that. But yeah, it's just so damn good.
Listen, even the best sports players in the world have a bad game now and then.
They do.
Ditto.
Yep.
I mean, Batman the Animated Series is brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant, and it's, you know, I've always said it's not only one of my favorite animated things of all time. It's one of my favorite shows of all time, live action or animated. It's just that good. It's, as you said, it is a perfect version of Batman and his villains and his supporting characters and his world, I think, in any media. It's just, they just found this perfect version of everything when they did that show. And you're right, it still holds up. It is still great. It's an amazing series, and it's one that just, it will be immortal. And it's just so funny that yesterday you said you had it on as you were sort of resting and slipping in and out of consciousness, because I definitely turned it on last night as I drifted off to sleep. So,
Oh, nice.
so weird. Oh my God, did we just become best friends?
Well, I think we did.
So I mean, I chose it not just because it's the popular choice, but it's that good. And it still is that good this many years later. You know, I love
And
the
so many parts have transcended as well. Like,
Yeah.
it's given us
Mhm.
Harley Quinn.
Mhm.
I mean, I know we'll talk about this in a one that's coming up very soon, but like the Mr. Freeze story,
Yeah,
you know, like that is now Batman lore.
right.
And it came from the animated series. You know, it's, again, in some ways it's transcended being a cartoon show and is now part, so, you know, many aspects of it are part of just everyday Batman lore. People think that's how it originated, and it's kind of is.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's an amazing series, and it's just an amazing celebration, and tells amazing stories about the characters and the world that we love. It's that good. But I did want to say, yeah, like I love Batman the Brave and the Bold. That one is one that I've also been revisiting in quarantine a little bit here and there on DC Universe. I do love that one. I also love Young Justice, but I don't know if I'd call Young Justice a Batman show. You know, it's
You know,
it's a show that Batman pops up in now and again, but I don't know if I'd call it a Batman show. But like I got to give some love to those two, because I think those two are nearly as good as Batman the Animated Series. But yeah, Batman the Animated Series is a beloved classic for a reason.
yep, always will be.
Yep. Well, along those lines,
Sticking with that theme?
number 13, your favorite Joker voice actor.
I mean, it's Hamill, man. It's, to me, personally, there was no other option. I did see a few other names get thrown out there for this one, but for me, it was Mark Hamill. And the day that I posted this, I tagged him in it, and I got a like from Mark Hamill
Nice.
on this one. So I was like, holy shit. I was a little bit rapt at that. But yeah, I mean, again, it's not even similar to Conroy, exactly the same as Conroy. Like, it started off him just voicing him in a cartoon, and it's transcended that. It's the voice that you hear when you read the comics. He's voiced him in other media, like, your video games and other animated movies. I mean, I'm not saying this in a negative way, but Troy Baker's Joker voice is Mark Hamill.
Yes, yes, it is.
It is. That's not a negative thing to say. It's just the truth. He's doing a Mark Hamill, and he does a really good job of it. But Mark Hamill is the Joker, in my opinion, the exact same way Kevin Conroy's Batman. Like, they're one and the same.
No, I agree with you. It's much like Conroy. It's almost an unfair category because, yeah, Hamill has just become the Joker voice, and for good reason. Like, I remember when I found out he was the Joker, because I think it was a while before I figured that out, because when the show came out, I was still pretty young. I was 12 or... Yeah, I think I was 12, maybe 13. I wasn't paying attention to the voice actors yet, so I just was like, oh yeah, that's the Joker. And I think it was a couple years later that my friend Dillip, who I had on this show ages ago, Dillip went, that's Luke Skywalker, right? I went, wait, what? He's like, yeah. And I was like, no, that doesn't make sense. And yeah, sure enough. And God, he's so brilliant as the Joker. And he's the perfect balance of like funny, but menacing, but unpredictable. And he does every layer of the Joker in his vocal performance. And like Conroy, that means he's done it for more than just Batman the Animated Series. He's done it everywhere, and rightfully so. Like, he's just such a great Joker, and he's redefined the Joker and what we expect when we hear him, to the point where, much like Kevin Conroy, if people don't qualify the question of who's your favorite Batman or who's your favorite Joker, sometimes someone will go, oh, my favorite Joker is Mark Hamill. And then someone will go, oh, no, like live action or whatever. But that happens with Conroy and Hamill, and for good reason. And again, like, it's a shame because you don't get to give credit to people like Kevin Michael Richardson. Like, as much as I don't like the Joker design in the Batman, I think Kevin Michael Richardson's performance as the Joker in that show doesn't get enough credit. He's so good, Oh,
yeah.
And, John DiMaggio in Under the Red Hood is great as the Joker. And, like, so there have been a lot of other great Jokers as well, but, man, like, it's Hamill. Come on.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Like, I think DiMaggio would actually be my second favorite. I think he did a really, really good job, and I'd love to see him have another crack at it one day.
Right. Oh, and I know I did see quite a bit of that, because I feel like even the people who chose not Mark Hamill, they even sort of said, well, like, to be different, of course Hamill's great, but I'm going to choose John DiMaggio because I would love to hear him do the Joker again someday, or I think that his performance gets overlooked and it's so good, and I agree with that. Michael Emerson in the Dark Knight Returns animated film, he's another
just
amazing
about
one.
to say, I think Jamie may have picked Michael Emerson from memory. But I did see at least one or two of him as well, and he's freaky as hell in that movie.
Right. So good.
Speaking of animated movies.
Speaking of, next one up is number 14, your favorite Batman animated movie.
Oh, look, mine holds a special place in my heart, Andy. Same as it should for you.
Yeah?
Batman Under the Red Hood.
Oh my God, I'm shocked.
It's back to where it all began for us.
Take it back to the beginning.
It was when our love first blossomed, and my first ever appearance on Holy BatCast.
Who'd have known?
I mean, not just because of that. I mean, it's such a good movie. It really is. I love everything about that movie. And look, there are a hell of a lot of good Batman animated movies. There are almost too many to count.
Mm-hmm.
But for me personally, it's Batman Under the Red Hood, and this is where I fell in love with Bruce Greenwood's voice. I mean, I
100%.
I really would love to see him come back and play the role again in, particularly with what's happened with the DC animated movies now. If they are going to go back to sort of one and dones or whatever, I'd love Greenwood to come back and voice the character. After Conroy, he's my favorite. And
I agree with you, and can I just say, I love that because of this movie, and he was so good in this movie, that then he did get to be Batman in Young Justice. Like, that made me so happy that he got to continue with the role in another way.
Yeah. I mean, like, Neil Patrick Harris's Nightwing was perfect as well, and, like, his version of the character and the way he plays off Batman and stuff. And I mean, it's a tragic story anyway, but I mean, Jensen Ackles as Red Hood, and I mean, Black Mask in the movie is hilarious.
Yeah.
I haven't watched it in a while, but I need to revisit it. But I love that movie.
Maybe tonight. After you take your painkillers, curl up and turn on Under the Red Hood.
I'm actually doing okay today. I haven't had to pop a Valium yet.
Oh, good. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
This one was a bit of a tough choice for me because you're right. There are a lot of great ones, and I love them all for different reasons. But I did end up landing where you did, which is Under the Red Hood, which is so funny to me because I am the first one to say that Jason Todd should have stayed dead. I still believe that.
Yep.
And yet,
so do I.
And yet somehow, the story of him coming back, the animated movie version of that story, is my favorite animated movie starring Batman. Because I love that the best thing about the death of Jason Todd is how much great dramatic material there was to then give Batman, dealing with that loss, dealing with his biggest failure, and to see that come back to haunt him in a very real way in this movie. It's just such a great story. It's such a great story to tell with Batman. And you're right, like, the voice cast is all amazing. We just talked about John DiMaggio, his Joker. This is just one of the most scary and evil Jokers, I think, that we've ever seen. Like, he's so evil.
If my memory serves, I think this was the first live action, the first animated Joker we saw in a movie post The Dark Knight. Because the aesthetic changed a little bit, like you sort of got the longer hair and things like that. So I don't know if they were sort of pulling from that, but DiMaggio's voice and the characterization of the Joker in that movie is effing evil. Like, he's such a sadistic bastard.
He is so freaking evil, and DiMaggio is great in it. And you're right, and I also think that, like what you just said is another reason I love this movie is, and you've probably heard me say it about other pieces of Batman media, is the more of Batman's world you can incorporate without it feeling shoehorned in, the happier I am, because I don't just love Batman. I love Batman's family. I love Batman's allies. I love Batman's villains. I love Gotham City. I love everything about Batman. And if you can give me a movie that can incorporate as much of that as possible and still make it feel cohesive, I'm going to love that. And that's what I love about this movie is you got Batman, you've got Nightwing, you've got Joker, you've got Black Mask, you've got Ra's al Ghul. Like, you've got so much of Batman's world, but it still is one very streamlined, one cohesive story. It all works together. I love it. And the animation is great. The vocal acting is great. I think it's extremely emotional, which I love that about it too. Like, I think that the heart is there in this movie.
Oh, the ending is just heartbreaking.
Yeah. I mean, and the climax of Batman and Jason Todd finally having it out is amazing. It's beautifully written. It's beautifully performed. And then you're right.
That scene in the bathroom fight it's so brutal.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it so much.
Yeah. So aside from it being the movie that brought us together, it's just a great movie in and of itself. And again, like, of course, I was tempted to say Mask of the Phantasm because it's great. And I was honestly, there was a little part of me that wanted to say Sub-Zero just because of how much I love Mr. Freeze. So
I love that movie as well.
Yeah, because I love that too. But yeah, I think that, like, I did the old Andy trick that Jamie always calls me out on. I got 3 of them sitting in front of me, or however many. Like, pick the one you want to watch right now. I'd probably pick Under the Red Hood.
Talking about it and talking about the Joker's dialogue and stuff, it made me think about how I said he's a sadistic bastard. That scene where they're all together and he works out who the Red Hood is and everything, and he's like, I can't remember it verbatim, but how he's like, take one of me and the kid, and then he's like, ooh, and then take one of me and the crowbar, and it's just like, oh, you prick. But it's so well done, and it's so Joker.
Yeah, no, it totally.
Love it.
Excellent choice. Well, speaking of Batman animation, we're back to Batman the Animated Series, and I think this was an excellent choice, because this one I feel like I saw lots and lots of replies that were very, very different.
Yes.
Which is
yep.
I think not the broader the category, but I guess the categories that had not as easy of an answer were so much more fun to see the replies to, because the answers were all over the place, and I just loved seeing that. So for which one are we on? Number 15, it was your favorite Batman the Animated Series episode. And yeah, I saw so many different choices here, which I loved.
Yeah, and I mean, I think our answers won't surprise anyone who are long-time listeners of the show, given that we've done a countdown of our favorite episodes.
Sure, yeah.
But yeah, for me, it was almost got him. I still, to this day, it's just perfect, because the reason why I always pick this one is, same as you were saying before, like, you love things that incorporate all of Batman's world.
Yeah.
And it amazes me. It's a powerhouse in, animation writing, that you essentially get, is it three? There's almost 4 or 5 storylines going through this one episode. That's 22 minutes long.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you've got the poker game that's happening currently. You get the story about the Penguin. You get the story about Poison Ivy. Which then, it then cuts to, again, real time, where, Batman has to rescue Catwoman, and it's just all in the one episode, and none of it feels shortchanged.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you get so many villains, so many great stories, and it's done in 22 minutes. It's incredible. It's pure Dini. I mean, the guy is just a effing genius, which will come up on the Nightlight later on. But
for more, please check out the next episode of the Nightlight 2.0. Wink.
Yeah, it's so damn good. I mean, I know what your answer is, and I know why you think it, but to me, it doesn't get any better than Almost Got Him.
Well, this was a contender. I think that when we did our countdown, this was in my top 10. And
it was, yeah.
That's the beauty of this show is, it's hard to find a wrong answer unless you choose Baby Doll. Then get the fuck out.
Or the Farmer Brown episode.
But aside from that, it was so fun to see the different responses and so hard to argue with any of them. But yeah, this, I agree with you about Almost Got 'Em. It is one of the very best. It's so creative. It's so entertaining. And you're right, it somehow tells so many different stories. And they all are complete stories, but so efficiently. It also pretty much is the only Batman the Animated Series episode that kind of counts as a Halloween episode.
Kind of, yeah, with the Poison Ivy
because
story.
Because the Poison Ivy story is on Halloween. It's the only overtly Halloween moment in the whole show that I can think of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, you're right.
So bonus points for that. And yeah, you're right. I love that not only is it just the poker game, but then there's also almost like a bonus Almost Got Him at the end with Catwoman. It's so good. So good.
Hell, it's become a game.
A game that I still don't understand. Yes, but
yeah,
a game.
Me either. I've got it, but it's become its own game.
Yeah. I tell you what, I read the instructions, and when it was done, I said, well, I almost got it.
Yeah. Look, it's just nice to have as part of the collection.
Exactly. The deck of cards is really cool.
When you come down here, it's on the list to do. We're going to sit down.
We're going to figure this out.
Our entire trip, but we're going to figure out this goddamn game, and we're going to play it.
Great, it's a deal. I'll also bring my Golden Girls Funko game.
Nice, awesome.
Yeah. Andy, did you pack any clothes? No, but here's my Golden Girls Funko game. Here's Almost Got 'Em.
You'll pack your Riddler PJ so we can at least match
obviously.
What we're playing. Yeah.
Obviously,
that's all you need.
Yeah, I mean, my choice I went with is the absolute classic, the Emmy-winning Heart of Ice. I think it was, it was one of the first episodes that aired. I want to say it was like episode 4 or 5. It was really early on in the run, but it was the episode of Batman the Animated Series that I watched, and I just went, "Oh wow, this is really good." And obviously the first couple were really good too, but not the way this was really good. This was like really good on a whole nother level because it wasn't just a cool Batman story. It was also this really heartfelt, heartbreaking story about Mr. Freeze. And it, as you said earlier, it redefined Mr. Freeze forever. It completely changed who the character was and what his backstory was and made him this tragic villain that you can't help but feel for. You'd have to have a cold heart to not feel for Mr. Freeze in this episode.
Deanie, man.
So, yeah, I mean, I already love Mr. Freeze anyway as a character, and this made me really fall in love with him. And the animation is great. The way they visualize Mr. Freeze's abilities in this is great. His design is great. The performance by Michael and Sarah as
The
Freeze.
voices,
Oh,
no pun intended, is chilling.
oh, it's so great. So yeah, I mean, this is held up as one of the shining examples of how brilliant this show is, and I think for good reason. So, again, there are a lot of right answers to this question, but I had to go with Heart of Ice.
Yeah. No, don't disagree.
Yeah, so awesome. All right, and I guess this is going to be the last one for this episode until we switch over to the Nightlight.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
that-
it's an uneven number, so I thought it was fair to give you this one, given what it is.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's fitting. So number 16 is your favorite Robin.
For me, and I said it, I said it on Twitter the day, and you've quoted me on here saying it before. Is I love me some Dick, and Dick Grayson is still my favorite Robin. I do adore Tim. He's a very, very close second. I effing despise Damien. Everybody knows that. And I have no strong feelings either way for Jason. But I mean, I guess Carrie Kelly should be mentioned. But to me, she's not canon, so I don't ever really count her in the discussion.
Yeah.
But Dick Grayson for me, and again, like, to talk about Batman the Animated Series, like I just Robin in that show is so damn good, and his that version of Dick Grayson just makes me love that character so much, because when I think of Robin, I think of Dick Grayson from Batman the Animated Series, and I love it. He is my favorite Robin, but I do have to give kudos to Tim, which I know you're about to
What?
big time, so all over his face, neck, and chest. So I'll let you go with Tim.
Okay. Yeah, and I always have to give the disqualifier is the reason I don't choose Dick Grayson is because in my mind Dick Grayson's Nightwing. That's how I see him. I just don't see him as Robin anymore. But I love the character. I love the character of Dick Grayson, as we already sort of talked about. But of course, my choice is Tim Drake. Tim Drake, to me, is the ultimate Robin. I love Tim because, much like Dick, he is the most pure-hearted of the Robins. He is only there because he wants to help. He is only there because he wants to do the right thing. And I love that as an aspirational hero, Tim Drake is someone you can look up to and go, God, I want to be a better person like Tim Drake. I think that's the magic of Tim Drake. He fell into being Robin, not because he wanted to be Robin, not because he was seeking thrills, but because he wanted Batman to have a Robin, and he wanted it to be Dick Grayson. He didn't even want the job. He just wanted what was best for Bruce, and what was best for Bruce was to get him back together with Dick. And when he realized that wasn't going to happen, he took the mantle, not for himself, but to save Bruce's life, and then eventually realized what good he could do as Robin. So Tim Drake, I also appreciate that he is the smartest Robin. He is more brains over brawn, which I can relate to. I like to think I can relate to, maybe I could be wrong, but I love that he is a Robin that uses his head and he wins because he's so smart, not because he's just the best fighter or he works out the most or because he's a trained ninja. Like, he is certainly capable when it comes to fighting, but his greatest power is his brain, much like Batman's greatest power is his brain. And I think that he's just the perfect conscience for Bruce when he is Robin. So yeah, and of course there's also something about Tim Drake was the one who was taking the mantle when I really got into comics. So there's also just a little bit of nostalgia there, but I also think that as I've grown up and I've gone through all the Robins and I've read the stories, Tim Drake is still the one that resonates with me most because he has the most pure motives of being Robin.
Yeah.
So
no,
love it. Jamie
Again,
made sure he gave
I
some love
disagree.
to. Yeah, Jamie made sure he gave love to Carrie Kelly, which of course. So.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, he loves that story. So
he loves that story.
Full credit.
Yeah. So, but yeah, and again, it was fun to see. Some people chose Stephanie Brown, which was surprising, but hey, great, good on you, So it was fun to see that. So yeah, nothing but love for Dick for originating the role. But yeah, Tim's my Robin. But again, if you've ever listened to the show, this should surprise no one.
No, not at all.
Cool. All right. Awesome. Well,
I was going to start my own podcast called Everyone Loves the Dick, but I thought,
I mean,
could be a little bit on the nose. So.
Right. I think, you might get people listening and they'd be disappointed that it was about a Robin. So.
Yeah.
They're like, that's not what I signed up for. It's like when I rented Octopussy. I was like, oh, James Bond? This is not what I wanted to see. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that is where we're putting a pin in it at number 16, favorite Robin. So if you want to hear 17 through 31, you got to go over to the Nightlight 2.0. Do you know which episode number it's going to be at, Brendan?
I don't.
That's okay. People are smart. You go find the Nightlight. You'll see it in the subject line of Batman ISO Challenge Part 2.
And I mean, we'll tweet it anyway, so you can see it. But yeah, if you just go to the nightlight.podbean.com or find us on social media, on Twitter or on Facebook, the episode links will be there. So you won't have any trouble finding it.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, that is a fun first half of the Batman, the Bite Man. Bite Man! He is coming for you, and he will bite your ankles. Bite Man Isolation Challenge. But as always, we've got emails. So before we say goodbye, let's crack open the Wayne Manor mailbox. It's time again for the Wayne Manor mailbox.
You've got mail.
Darren, what is a letter for me?
Maybe temporary.
She wrote a letter.
You're one hell of a messenger. This is all, Master Wayne.
All right, email here is from our old pal Julian Chan. He's a fellow Aussie, isn't he?
Yes.
That's what I thought.
Lovely gentleman.
Yes. You met him in person.
Actually spent some time with him last year in Sydney when I was at Supernova.
Yeah, he's a real person. Amazing. Julian, first of all, congratulations on being a real person. Good for you.
And a hell of an artist, too, actually.
Oh, yeah. He shares so much fun stuff, sometimes inspired by the show, sometimes just when he's having fun. But yeah, so much fun stuff. Okay, here's what Julian says. He goes, hey, hopefully this is read out on another episode than my last email. Well, I guess so. It says, although the release of the Snyder Cut is a thing to celebrate, I think that we all agree it shouldn't set a precedent. That said, I immediately started hashtagging release the Ayer cut. Whilst I laughed it off, David Ayer himself has started posting never-before-seen images, and WB's parent company, AT&T, has been putting some cryptic posts on Instagram, heavily egging on the Ayer cut movement. I'm not against it because, like Zach, he was a director who didn't get a chance to realize his vision through studio meddling, which is entirely different from fans wanting a different product like The Rise of Skywalker or the last season of Game of Thrones. So question is, would you support release the Ayer cut? Cheers from down under, as always, Jules. Thank you, Jules. What say you, Brendan? Do you support releasing the Ayer cut?
Yeah. I mean, I haven't been vocal about it or anything, but I don't feel that I've needed to, because David Ayer is out there giving little gems pretty much every day, and people are asking him questions about it, and he's just answering honestly.
Yeah.
Like I said before, like he talked about Jared Leto's Joker yesterday or the day before, and he was just like, his whole performance was cut out of that movie. He said like Jared got a bum deal, you know, that it's unfair, and you know, the fact that he went so method, and there's all these stories about the, you know, what his character was doing and stuff, and none of it was in the movie. So, I mean, look, if I get to see the movie that David Ayer intended us to see one day, of course I want to see it. Definitely, you know, and I think with what's happened with Snyder has kind of opened that door. And the fact that Warner Brothers and AT&T, they're not commenting on it like they were with the Snyder Cut for so long. They're kind of playing the game a little bit, which does make you raise an eyebrow and go, oh, I wonder. So, you know, with HBO Max, if it happens, you bet your ass I'll be keen to watch it.
Yeah, I agree, and I absolutely think it'll happen at this point. I do. Because I'm sure that AT&T and Warner Brothers are they're loving the attention that they are getting about the Snyder Cut. They're loving it. They're celebrating it, you know? Like, if you're watching it on Twitter, they're having so much fun with it. So, like, they're getting all of this goodwill and free press because of the Snyder Cut. You think they don't want it again for the Ayer cut? And especially because it sounds like, based on what David Ayer's been saying, completing his cut is going to be a heck of a lot cheaper than what they're spending to complete Zack Snyder's Justice League. Because his cut was a lot closer to completion than Zack Snyder's was. So he even said, he goes, it won't take much to finish it. So to get that additional content, the free promotion, the free publicity, the goodwill from fans, and content to promote HBO Max, yeah, I think it's going to happen, and I'm all for it. I think it sounds great.
Yep. Ditto.
Yep. Julian, he did follow up with another email. He said, a couple more questions popped up. I recently purchased the Swamp Thing Blu-ray, was reminded how awesome the show was. I remain peeved and perplexed by its cancellation. Do you think or hope that the character will be resurrected for J.J. Abrams' Justice League Dark? Number 2, it appears that Darkseid will appear in Zack Snyder's Justice League. Do you think the depiction of Darkseid and his forces will have any effect on what Ava DuVernay is doing with the New Gods? Cheers again, Julian. All right, what say you, Brendan? Do you think that this version of Swamp Thing will get used for Justice League Dark?
I hope so. I mean,
I want to say, didn't we talk about it when that was announced?
Maybe? I can't remember.
Because I remember saying, I hope it does. It should. They've already built the damn suit. They already have a perfect guy to play him. But I honestly don't think they will. I think that J.J. Abrams and his production company will want to do their own thing.
But it's the same argument we've talked about recently with Constantine as well. Like, yeah. I'm sorry, but he is he's the character. Like, there's just use him. He's perfect, you know.
Well, you've already got a perfect Constantine and a perfect Swamp Thing and a perfect Blue Devil. Just use them. But
yes, yes, definitely. How can we forget Blue Devil?
Don't you forget Blue Devil. Guess what? True story. I am in my isolation. I'm reading the entire run of Blue Devil on DC Universe.
I saw that you had that.
Yeah. I'm thoroughly enjoying it.
That's great.
Yeah, but no, I think that yes, they could. I certainly would. I wish they would, but I would not be surprised if they're like, no, we're just going to do our own thing, start from scratch.
Yeah. No, you can only live in hope.
Yeah. And then what about Darkseid?
I honestly don't know with that one. I keep forgetting about that New Gods movie. I don't know if it's going to happen. Yeah. See, the New Gods, to me, it's an aspect of the DC universe I've never really paid much attention to, other than when it pops up in, you know, Justice League stories and stuff like that. Like, I don't know a lot about Mr. Miracle and all those. Yeah. If I'm being completely honest, I mean, obviously I'd go and see it if it exists, if it ever comes out, because it's a DC movie and I'll support it. But I have little to no interest in it. It's just not something I'm that keen on, to be honest.
I mean, I look forward to the movie But yeah, would I honestly think that she'll be allowed to do whatever she wants with Darkseid. Because Zack Snyder's Justice League will sort of be its own thing on HBO Max. I don't think that she is going to be held to being consistent with that for her own movie. Maybe she'll want to, if they've already got the CG model built for the character, it'd be a lot cheaper and easier for her to just use it. But I think that she's going to be allowed to make that decision. All right, next message is from Bishop Pearson. It says, hey, if Sam Hamm's Batman Returns script was the movie that had been made, would the merchandise and the poster have been the same, but featuring Kim Basinger as Vicky Vale and Marlon Wayans as Dick Grayson? And how would it have been to own a Marlon Wayans as Robin action figure? Thanks for the question, Bishop. What do you think, Brendan?
I mean, you'd almost think Robin would have to be on the poster somewhere. I don't know about Vicky Vale.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, it would have been different because it would have been a different movie. As far as the Robin action figure, I mean, not that I ever owned one, but I know there was a Robin action figure from the Batman Returns line.
I was going to say, you pretty much can own one. His skin color is just off.
A little bit different, yeah.
But
yeah,
that was sort of where that came from.
If he'd been in the movie, shit, yeah, of course I would have owned one. I owned virtually all the toys from Batman Returns, so even though I never saw it in the cinema. But anyway,
yeah.
Yeah,
I think the merchandise would definitely feature the characters. I don't know if we'd ever get a Vicky Vale action figure, which back in 1989, I was kind of mad. I was like, I want a Vicky Vale action figure. Why did you only make 3? I want Vicky Vale too. But yeah, that was in the time when they're like, boys won't buy a girl action figure. But yeah, there already was a Robin one that was based on the Marlon Wayans version. They just made him white in the action figure because he wasn't in the movie. But yeah, like, it would have been really interesting to see like a Batman Returns poster that they would have not just been Batman, Catwoman, and Penguin. They would have had to find a way to include Robin and Vicky Vale. I'm sure there's a talented artist out there who could figure it out.
I'm just picturing the same poster but it being even longer. Like it's got
just 2 more heads. Yeah.
But it's you talk about the action figures. My Phantasm action figure, when you took the Phantasm cowl off of her and it was just Andrea. Yeah. She was the stand-in for a lot of female characters. When I used to play with my Batman figure, I think she was Chase quite a bit.
Okay.
I might have even used her as Selena, out of the Catwoman garb.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she played multiple roles when I was playing with my Batman toys because she was the only female action figure. Yeah,
that was an infamous action figure though, because they were like, "Thanks for spoiling the movie, guys," because it was in the package. She was just the Phantasm mask was not on her, so you could just tell that it was Andrea.
Oh, okay. See, I didn't get the toys till
after. Oh, yeah, it's infamous because it was on shelves, and you're like, well, I guess now I know who Phantasm is.
Yeah, well, there you go.
But yeah, you're right. Like, there were very few female action figures back in the day. All right, next message here is from Michael Murphy. It says, hey, do you think that we'll ever see Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn in the classic Jester costume in a future film? Michael, thanks for the question. What do you think, Brendan?
I don't think so, but I hope so.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that what we got in Suicide Squad with the little flashback is probably all we'll ever get. What's so funny, though, is I saw some fans go, yeah, it looked horrible, and that's why you can't do it in live action. And I went, oh, I like the way it looked.
Honestly, I'd be happy with kind of the comic costume she wears at the moment, and in the Harley Quinn series, the animated series. Like, I'd like to see that done. Because I mean, as much as I personally enjoyed Birds of Prey, I was never real flash on the costumes they did, especially for Harley, because none of them really resembled her, her look at all.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if they were to sort of, because they sort of go the skimpy approach, which I get it. I mean, and hey, it's Margot Robbie, so I'm not complaining about it. But yeah, something a little closer to the black and red aesthetic, and if they did it like the current animated version, it would sort of work, I reckon.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I would love it. And yeah, like, I mean, the classic Jester costume shows no skin, so you can't, you can't throw any critiques at that about it being too, inappropriate or anything or too skimpy. Yeah, I would love it, but I just don't know if it will happen at this point. I feel like we had the opportunity to do that, and that they haven't. And what we have
Unless
seen of spy pics of the Suicide Squad, it doesn't look like it's happening there either.
Unless they go flashback.
Yeah.
Because it actually wasn't there. Again, I don't know how founded this is, but wasn't there talk of a potential Harley and Ivy movie being tossed around the other day with Kathy Wan or something?
There was, but then there was, but apparently that was something that Kathy Yan said during the promotion of Birds of Prey, and someone just recycled the quote months later because it was a slow news day.
Got it. Okay. But, I mean,
and this is why I have trust issues with scoopers and clickbait sites.
Yeah.
It's because you dig up an old quote from 5 months ago and go, hey, Kathy Ann wants to do Poison Ivy and Harley, and everybody shares it.
I mean, if you cast your mind back to 2016, though, I've been wanting that movie
more
than I ever wanted Birds of Prey and stuff. Like Harley and Ivy is just that. I'm amazed that happened. Sorry, that Birds of Prey happened before a Harley and Ivy.
Yeah,
to be perfectly honest.
No, I agree with you, and I also think that a Gotham City Sirens or Harley and Ivy, I think that is a lot more marketable than Birds of Prey, because Birds of Prey, all the supporting characters, as much as I like them, none of them are as well known to the mainstream, whereas Poison Ivy and Catwoman obviously are. So.
Yep.
I think there's more value added with those characters.
Hopefully in the future.
All right. The next message is from Tony Almeida. It says, hey dudes, I just discovered your show and I love it. Consider me a new fan and subscriber. 2 questions. Number 1, do you think we will get more Deathstroke or Lex Luthor in the Snyder Cut of Justice League? And number 2, I'm curious, what do you guys do for a living? I'm always curious and would love to know your line of work besides recording killer podcasts. Thanks. Keep rocking. Tony Almeida. All right. Thanks, Tony, and welcome to the show. Well, first thing,
welcome.
If you go back just a few episodes, someone asked us about our jobs not that long ago.
Yeah, it's a couple of months ago, I think. But we've been asked before.
Relatively recently, but we'll answer it again. I don't mind. Jamie, who is not here, he co-owns and runs a car dealership in Indiana. So that's what Jamie does. As well as parenting like 15 little rugrats.
It's 3, but okay.
It just seems like 15. There's just always something happening with those rotten kids. Brendan?
I'll give the same answer I gave before, which is mind your own damn business. No, I'm kidding. I work for Australia Post. Not as a mailman or anything, but I work on the customer service side of things in the offices.
Yeah, great. And I currently work for Universal Studios, and I am a producer working on the new theme park in Beijing, which is why I've been in China. And then, do you think we'll get more Deathstroke or Lex Luthor in Zack Snyder's Justice League?
I'm pretty sure yes.
Yeah.
I'm very confident that we will.
I think that's a pretty safe. Yeah, that's a pretty safe bet. Yeah, I would say definitely more Deathstroke, based on Joe Manganiello's tweet. But I also think that probably more Lex Luthor as well.
Yeah.
All right, next message is from Nicholas Zednick. It says, hey, Warner Brothers calls you up and gives you the option to A, cast and write your own Batman movie, or B, write your own comic book with your favorite comic book artist. What do you choose and why? Keep up the great work. Hope you're well, Nick Zednick. Thank you, Nick. Hope you're well as well. Hope you are well as well. Yeah. Brendan, what's your choice?
Movie.
I mean, yeah,
movie,
obviously.
Definitely
Movie. I mean, I love comics. Don't get me wrong. Comics are wonderful. But movie is just, more people are going to see your work. So, yeah, I'm going to make a Batman movie, damn it. It also means building Gotham City and building a Batmobile and building a Batwing and yada, yada. And it's going to be amazing.
And you can, another giant yellow duck and. But I mean, look, in some ways with that too, I'd cheat because I'd go the movie, but you bet your ass I'd be getting Paul Dini involved.
Yeah, good call.
So I'd be able to work with my favorite comic writer as well.
Hell yeah.
Which
See?
again, spoiler alert for the next episode of The Nightlight.
Well, and now that Jim Lee is the chief creative officer of DC, he would work with me on a movie anyway.
Yeah.
So, You're right. I would make the movie, but I would loop in comic writers to help with the story, and then I would loop in comic artists to help with storyboards. What? I'd do it all. I would do it all. And then I'd make them draw the adaptation, and we would sell that shit, and I would do it all.
As a comic.
Yep.
We've got it all figured out.
Got it all figured out. All right, next message is from Muhammad. It says, hey guys, I heard your recent episode. I heard Jamie talking about Bane and how he was shortchanged, and it got me thinking about other characters that I think were shortchanged. Talia, in my opinion, has been shortchanged in comics and movies where she basically got the Disney evil stepmother treatment. I personally feel Grant Morrison ruined her character. I'd be interested in hearing your thoughts. I feel it would be a really interesting episode of other characters being shortchanged. Regards, Muhammad. Thanks, Muhammad. Always good to hear from you. What do you think, Brendan? Who's been shortchanged?
I reckon if on the count of 3, we both say our answer, because I reckon it's going to be the same.
I have 2, but I think that, yes. But I think I know what you're saying. So, 1, 2, 3, Riddler.
Yep. Yeah, no, definitely the Riddler.
Yeah, I mean, the Riddler, come on, give me a real Riddler. But my other one was Robin, obviously.
Yeah, actually true. Yeah,
Riddler and Robin.
Definitely.
So,
the
more
2 Rs.
of them. All right, next message is from Carl. Come on, message. There we go. It says, hey, Holy BatCast family. If Tim Burton's Batman 3 was made, would the merchandise, like toys, candy, pinball machines, soundtracks, still have been the same like Batman Forever was? How cool would it have been to own an action figure of Billy D. Williams as Two-Face or Robin Williams as the Riddler? Okay, so here, this is funny. This is like the same question as the other one, but 2 different names.
Yeah.
2 different names. I think somebody's got 2 email addresses is what I think. But, hi, Carl, if that's really your name. So, I think the answer is there would be all of that same merchandise, yes, but it would not look the same because it would be based on the aesthetics of a different film.
Yeah, and this is a really interesting one given how we know, with what happened with merchandising and stuff with Batman Returns. If Burton had have made a 3rd Batman movie, I don't think we would have gotten the frosted glasses, because I think McDonald's would have wiped their hands. They would have wiped their hands of it big time.
Here's the thing. I don't know if they would. Here's why. Yeah? Because they made money. They don't, who cares? As long as people were showing up and buying them, they don't care. And so, sure, there were some angry parents of how dare McDonald's promote Batman Returns? It's so dark. But McDonald's is we don't care. People are showing up and buying it. That's all that matters. So do you really think McDonald's would pass on a 3rd Batman movie?
Oh, I thought the story was that they pretty much said that they wouldn't take part in promoting another Batman movie of that nature.
I don't know if they said that. They sort of tried to sidestep the problem though, because I feel like their official response was, this merchandise is just promoting the character of Batman. It's not about the movie, which is such a lie because it also Batman Returns.
Yeah, bullshit.
But they tried to spin it, but I don't think they ever said, we won't do this again.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there'd be toys and merchandise. That's a given. But yeah, it would have been interesting to see how it played out. I think.
Yeah. I mean, the merchandising blitz was standard for all 4 of those Batman films, starting with 1989 to Batman and Robin. The merchandising blitz was just part of the business plan, and so that would still happen, whether the third film was Tim Burton or whether it was the Joel Schumacher film, because that was a huge stream of revenue that came from that film. But to kind of go more towards, I think, the core of what you're asking is, I would have loved to have seen Tim Burton's designs for Two-Face and the Riddler. Like, I would have loved to have seen his versions of those.
You know, it's funny, just made me think too, like how successful the Batman Forever promotions were for McDonald's, that they didn't do Batman and Robin.
Yeah, that's true.
Like it's like, I don't know who it was in America, but here in Australia it was KFC from memory, and honestly the toys and stuff that they had were pretty shit. Like, they weren't.
Ours was Taco Bell.
Yeah, well, see, yeah, we don't have Taco Bell. Well, we didn't. But it's funny that they didn't jump back on the bandwagon for Batman and Robin.
You're right. I mean,
those glasses and stuff, I mean, they're still, like, people were going nuts for them, and the Happy Meals and everything as well. Like, it's crazy.
I wonder why that is. Like, I have a few theories, but I don't know what's true. Like, maybe it wasn't as successful as we think. Maybe.
True.
You know? Because, yes, those glasses are awesome. Like, they're my favorite thing that came out of that movie is those glasses. I love them. But you can go on eBay today and get a set of 4 for like $5. So, like, they're everywhere and they're dirt cheap, which means that, like, you know, they're very easy to find. So maybe there's just a ton out there. So it could be that, like, maybe because we saw the Blitz, we were like, oh yeah, of course, hugely successful. Maybe for McDonald's, they're like, no, we were sitting on millions of these damn glasses. Or it could have, I mean, maybe it was plenty successful, but maybe Taco Bell just wanted it so bad that they outbid McDonald's.
Possibly, yeah.
You know, like maybe that's it. Is Taco Bell's like, no, we need this, and so they threw more money at WB, and WB's like, okay, fine, we'll go with you this time.
Yeah, could be true. Anyway, it's just popped into my head.
No, you're right. You're right. That's
really
very
bizarre. Yeah,
you're right. Well, because it's weird here. Batman '89 and Batman and Robin were both Taco Bell, and Batman Returns and Batman Forever were both McDonald's.
I don't know who Batman '89 was over here. I honestly don't remember at all, because again, I was only 5 at the time. But yeah,
right.
Batman Returns was definitely big for McDonald's.
Yeah, it was Taco Bell here. So yeah, it's interesting. I do wonder why it shifted, because the thing I remember about Batman and Robin at Taco Bell, and it was actually really cool, is on the door, because the door is glass. They had life-size window clings of the characters.
Oh wow!
So it was like a 6.5-foot life-size window cling of Mr. Freeze that was on the door of our Taco Bell.
Oh, cool.
So it was literally like standing in front of the real Mr. Freeze, at least as far as size goes. I just thought that was so cool.
That's awesome.
And they had them on all the windows, but like I just remember the door was Mr. Freeze because I just felt like I was looking right at Arnold. All right, we got one last email, and then we'll get the hell out of here. This is from Mark Jurasevic, who has my favorite last name of some of our listeners. I just like saying Jurasevic. He says, hey, Batcasters, I hope you are well. And Andy, I hope you've settled back in China okay. Thanks, Mark. It is a process. I'm not there yet, but it's happening. He says, thanks for your review of Stargirl. The series is great, and it's fun to watch. The opening JSA fight was very impressive with great production values. I was wondering if you would consider reviewing the Smallville 2-part JSA episodes. It'd be interesting to see your views on it. I consider it to be one of the best episodes of Smallville, and to this day, it holds up extremely well compared to any CW series. Take care, Mark. Thanks, Mark. I appreciate the message. Yeah, because I feel like we mentioned it briefly when we were talking about Stargirl. I haven't seen those episodes, I think, since they aired, but when they aired, I loved them. I thought they were awesome, so I hope... Yeah, I'd be all about it. I think that could be a kind of a fun thing to do right now, especially with Stargirl happening. And Stargirl continues to be good. We're 3 episodes in, and I'm really loving it.
Yeah, same. I'm a fan. Look, I'd definitely be down for that. I own the Smallville box set, so nice. I can just dig it out and watch them.
I don't know if Smallville is... I want to say it's on Hulu right now. Because I don't think it's on DC Universe because they have the deal with Hulu. I'd have to check, but I would have to figure out where to get it because I had all of the Smallville box sets, but I might have gotten rid of them in my last move because I was like, oh, it's DVD. It wasn't even Blu-ray. I was like,
Yeah.
like I'll be able to stream them. I just got rid of the DVDs. But yes, I think that would be a fun. So it's a good idea, Mark. Thank you for the idea.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely keen.
Yeah. All right. Well, cool.
1 week, if we're stuck for a topic, we'll have to remember that one.
Yes. I do have a running list. I'll have to add it to the list. Because whenever I do get stuck, I go back to the list and I go, oh, I don't feel like that. Oh, this is too much homework. Oh, okay, what about this? So I only need to add it to my list. All right, we're going to close the Wayne Manor mailbox. If you've got a message for the Wayne Manor mailbox, you can send that to Holy BatCast at rf4rm.com. But that's where we're going to wrap up this episode of the show. Brendan, that was fun.
It was fun. And you know what? We're only halfway there.
I know, good to do it all over again. And good timing, because it sounds like my lunch just got delivered.
Oh, nice.
I don't know if you heard the knock on the door, but that usually means that lunch is here. Yeah.
You enjoy that compartment of assorted food items.
Thanks. It'll be great. But yeah, we'll wrap this baby up. And again, for those of you who want to hear the rest of the Batman Isolation Challenge, go over to the Nightlight and check it out there. But that'll do it for Holy BatCast. Brendan, always a pleasure. Thanks for joining me.
Likewise, my friend. Always a pleasure, never a chore. And like I said before, if you want to find the Nightlight, jump over to thenightlight.podbean.com. I mean, it's also on Apple Podcasts and, pretty much wherever you get podcasts anywhere, you'll be able to find it. But, yeah, I mean, Andy will share the link for that one and likewise for me for this show. So, yeah, we'll do it all again very soon. And if you want to follow me personally on Twitter, it's at Loey007.
Great. And I just realized, hey, we managed to record this while I was in quarantine, so that's a good sign.
It is.
So I can do more if I want.
I'm
all
sure
right.
you will.
And maybe I will. Keep me busy and keep me talking to people. But there you go. I already told you where to follow me. Thank you guys, as always, for joining us. Thank you for downloading the show. Please do subscribe so you never miss an episode, and please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. Visit holybatcast.com. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And again, if you've got anything for the Wayne Manor mailbox, you can email that to holybatcast at rf4rm.com. So on behalf of Brendan, I've been Andy. This has been a Holy BatCast, and we will see you next time. Same bat time, same bat channel.
Holy BatCast is brought to you by real fans for real movies. Remember, the thoughts and opinions shared by the participants are theirs and theirs alone, and do not represent the companies or organizations they happen to work for.